another Health and GELBeing session. Today we've got Cathy from Live Life Psychology down in Ormond. Hello, Cathy.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Actually, it's a nice day today, so I'm happy and trying to stay positive.
It's beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time this afternoon. Team, today we're catching up with Cathy to talk about some strategies to help manage our emotions through this time. It's been about 18 months now where we've been living through something that for a lot of us, it will be one of the hardest and most challenging times in our lives, managing our emotions, managing ourselves, looking after our hat racks and making sure we sort of stay on the roller coaster and we get off together at the end. So today, Cathy, we just thought we'd check in with you. What are some of the things that we can do to help sort of managing our emotions in what is this crazy little world we're living in?
I think with emotional management in general, the thing to remember is that we can be focused on what's going on outside of us, outside in the real world, and that's usually a bit more of our rational brain working, the frontal lobe right here. But sometimes we go internally, and it's almost as if we're not really here in the real world, we're actually living in this world.
Yes.
And sometimes living in this world is great, fantasy and fun and imagination, it's wonderful. But sometimes this world is where a lot of those sort of dark, pessimistic, negative, worrying thoughts and emotions happen.
Yes.
So we just want to be, I don't know that many people are tuned into whether they're doing internal thinking or external thinking.
Yeah.
But we're wired to be able to do both. There's that many different ways that the brain can work. It can actually, do the outside focus and the inside focus, but becoming aware of what we're doing will help us with mood regulation or emotional management.
Yes.
So if things around us are not great as they are now, in lockdown, we can't do all the lovely things we used to do, but we can do some nice things. And for many of us, it's not too terrible, the things that are happening on a regular basis. But if we go into our mind, it can feel like doomsday. It can feel like it's never going to end. When we know, actually, if we live in the real world, we know it will end, and we are working towards, hopefully managing it with vaccines and whatever else into the future. But in our inner world, we can trick ourselves into feeling and having that mood go even lower when we think this is forever. I'm stuck with this forever, and not feel like we have any agency or any control over, how our life is going to be. So we can start itself. It's like a spiral. I tell you, if we don't get caught in the spiral, and you have one layer of thinking, which is external, like, oh, I can't go out for dinner, or I can't see my friends, or whatever, this is not good, or the parks are closed, or whatever. Then we have the next layer is, oh, it's been like this for so long, it's so hard. The next layer is, it's always going to be like this. And all of a sudden we've spun into our internal negative thinking. So it's good to pull ourselves out and say, am I actually working in the real world, or am I thinking in this world?
Yes.
And is it in the negative inside world?
Yes.
So mood regulation is very much easier to deal with when we're dealing in the outside world with reality.
Yeah.
Because there are things about our reality we can often change or gain a little bit of control over. Not everything at the moment. I think this is the least control we've had over our lives in probably our lifetime, but there are things we can control.
Yeah.
We can control what we wear, what we eat, where we walk,
and all those sorts of things. And sometimes when we're on that, we are caught in here and we're on that spiral. What are some of the things? It's kind of like, when there are things going on, we need to break that cycle, because otherwise that cycle is going to keep happening. So is there something, if I am on that spiral, something that I can potentially do to recognize it? And we can even dive into perspective here, because a lot of it does come down to sort of perspective and at what layer kind of is that problem. What can I do in that moment to kind of say,
well, a funny thing is, like, being a psychologist, people come and they talk about the issues to me, and sometimes just sitting down and starting to tell somebody the sentences that have been going on in their head, as they're speaking them out aloud, they're going, oh, Cathy, this must sound ridiculous. I can just hear how ridiculous it is now that I'm saying it. It's not actually that bad, is it? I think I've been telling myself. And so when we have that internally, there's no one checking on it to hear whether it's reality based or whether we're exaggerating the negative, or whether we're spiraling. We let ourselves go. But sometimes I tell people, if you haven't got someone you can actually talk to about it or say it out loud, write it down. Not necessarily in your phone. Sometimes that's the only way we can do it. Might not have a pen on us, but if you can actually physically get a pen and paper and write down some of the thoughts that you're thinking, some of the layers of the spiraling. I've thought this, then the next thought is this, and the next thought, you can start to see, there's a pattern here. I'm really going into, something that's catastrophizing the thought, which initially was, I don't like lockdown. And in the end, it's, I'm never going to have friends again, depending on how quickly we've gone down the spiral.
Yeah.
So writing it down or speaking it out loud to somebody, where you can actually join the dots and see what process of thinking we're doing. Is it realistic? Is it fair?
Yes.
The other thing that I think is really useful to use the internal thinking is to actually purposefully go into the imagination, but giving our brain a break from catastrophizing, negativity, pessimism, assuming the worst, all of those things, but giving it a break by using your imagination to give your brain 5, 10, 15 minutes every now and then, every day, if you can, of fantasy, meditation, imagination, whatever you want to call it, going to places that are good, allowing yourself to daydream about, imagine how things are going to be when we get it the way we wanted to get it. Not, it's never going to be that way, which is what our mind wants to tell us. But when it is, being the optimist, when it is, how are we going to be? What do we want to look like, feel like, do, eat, move? How do, just imagine yourself there. What we're doing there is giving the brain a chemical break away from the negative thinking, which is high levels of cortisol, high levels of adrenaline in the body, norepinephrine. We want to give it a break from those things and let it just be settled, so that the body can be calm, the heart rate can come down, and our brain can know that we're not, because when we're in this spiral, our brain is telling our body, we're under threat. There's something really bad going on and we are in trouble. So we go into our fight, flight, or freeze, and our whole chemistry changes, and our body feels like it's run a marathon because we've had to fight a lion and a bear and whatever. And we're not needing to do that. So we have to break up this self-talk, this internalized self-talk that makes us feel so low, interrupt it with fantasy or imaginary futures of the good stuff, which might be reality one day, but it also could just be, like I always imagine myself having this beautiful place on the beach, and that probably will never happen, but I can visit the beach. Optimism. And I can imagine it exactly. But it's just giving that brain a break so that our whole body can feel like it hasn't been under threat for long periods of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that, even in a normal world, and that, what is a normal world now? It's been 18 months, but things like the vision boarding, I mean, that's what people do with that imagination piece, to say, not to say that it can't happen. It's like, how will it happen? And making those plans and being realistic with that. And we were speaking to one of our trainers in another one of the Health and GELBeing sort of check-in sessions, and we were talking about, as a university student, utilizing this time to better position yourself for that future self. So for example, Soph, one of our trainers and group fitness instructors, was talking about how she's utilizing this time to do all this work and get herself better positioned, so future Soph, when the world opens up again, will be better positioned with her content. And she's living the dream because she can work, she can be with people, she can be present when she's with people, because we know life is quite busy when it's time has become one of the most, important assets, because everyone's using every minute of every day, darting around, filling up schedules and all the rest of it. Hopefully she'll be better positioned because she's achieved, through her university and through her studies and things. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, the good thing about that and really getting more in control of your mind, but also what you're actually doing, is that your whole system can relax because there's someone in control, so having that imaginary space where But I'll give you an analogy a bit, which is probably, clear to you, is sports people.
Yeah.
They have to visualize themselves playing their best game or their best shot or their best jump or their best kick or whatever.
Yeah.
And as they visualize it, as they go over it in their mind, how the gameplay is going to go and all the successes that are going to happen, the endorphins lift, they feel good, but also their body knows how to feel success. So when we allow ourselves to imagine, to fantasize, to dream about those things, whether it's walking into a meeting really confidently and putting our ideas forward, and when we imagine that, and it actually comes down to it and doing that, if the body and the mind have already experienced it, the anxiety about those things lowers because it feels more in control, it feels more successful, it's already done it. So that imagery is really important, and imagination is fantastic for helping us feel better in that immediate spot. You only need to do a couple of minutes of imagination stuff to have a good benefit from it. You don't need to sit down and meditate for an hour. And so it handles it there in the moment, gives us a rest in the brain, but it also prepares us for whatever the thing we're imagining is later, that we can be more successful at it.
Yes. And have you seen the TED talk about the Wonder Woman pose, the power pose?
No, I haven't.
I'll share it in the comments of this, and then on the Health and Programs page. But essentially it's around doing that. It's the form of visualization, but standing for 2 minutes. And, like you were just talking about, when you're about to go into a meeting or go into a situation where you might be, not sort of undermining your confidence, but you want to be able to present yourself in a confident way. This power pose where you hold it for 2 minutes, and, it's setting yourself up to feel the feelings and knowing how you're going to present yourself, and then walking in feeling good, feeling strong. And it's that same sort of analogy, I think.
Yeah, well, that's the one for strength, the Wonder Woman pose. But anything, if you think about how have I been sitting at home, if I've been feeling rubbish, if I've been feeling really, down and flat and depressed and whatever, notice, how have I been sitting? I've probably been on the couch, probably been, flopping, I've probably. Whereas if you stand up and you open your shoulders and open your body and, chin up and feel tall and broad and imagine some energy coming into you, it's really hard to sort of hold on to the grumpy feeling while you're in that, energetic pose. So think about that. I sometimes also tell people, if they're getting anxious rather than the depressed feeling, anxiety will make you want to disappear and be invisible. And we want to be like, no, open the body up, because that tells our brain, if our body's open, it tells the brain we're safe. We're not trying to hide the body from the attacking, animal that's looming in the background. We're actually saying, no, we're safe. So we've got open body language. Even if you're lying down, lie down with your arms facing up this way, and just let your brain know we're not in any threat. It's okay. You can relax. And it changes the whole chemistry in the brain, which changes the mood.
So is that the same reason why sort of in meditations, they sort of set you up in that same position? They always sort of say, yes. So you take it on. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. You're open. You're more vulnerable to be eaten by a lion or tiger. But what we're saying to the body and the brain is, we don't mind being vulnerable because we're safe here. And that allows our body to just de-escalate and feel calm.
Yeah. And one of our yoga instructors and gym floor instructors as well, Anita, she took a yoga on Gel Anywhere the other night and was talking about that energy piece and around the breath work. She does breath work daily, and she's also done one of our team check-ins as well. So check it out if you haven't already watched it, team. But essentially, Anita is all about that energy and that breath work and sort of taking it in, slowing things down, and then positioning yourself. She does that every morning religiously, to sort of set herself up for the day.
Breath work is beautiful. So yes, definitely have a look at that, because it's very helpful for the body to know we're safe, we're calm, we'll get through this. There's no need to have this high reaction that's not going to be useful to us. Even though we know it's a pretty hard time, it's still, that reaction's still not useful to the body or mind.
Totally. Awesome. Well, team, thank you again for your time today, Cathy. As
You're
always,
welcome.
Honor and privilege. And team, if you've got any questions for Cathy, or if there are any topics that you would like to see us dive into, just comment below, get in contact with us via the Gel Facebook page, contact me directly. I'm okay with that. Otherwise, please look after yourselves, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Gel Anywhere Health and GELBeing session. Thank you, Cathy.
See you.
Bye.